My actual art fight event was weird this year. I got hit with the dip really fast, my ratio was obliterated because of said dip, I saw a lot more plagiarism than usual, and this was the first year I received attacks with no message at all? I don't know what was going on this year. Hiya! Let's talk art fight retrospective. I'm Grim Vestige, and this was my 9th year participating. If you don't know what art fight is, well, I'm gonna send you to a different video. We're gonna get in the weeds about the event here, and you will be incredibly lost otherwise. Now, for those of you willing to dive into the weeds with me with all of the necessary context, I want to talk about how my event went this year and invite a bit of a conversation with you about how your art fight was. Sort of get a vibe check of the room, see if anyone else is feeling what I'm feeling. So, we'll go through before the event, during, and a bit of future growing pains I see art fight potentially having to deal with. If that is your cup of tea, grab a creative project and listen along. So, prepping for art fight this year was the busiest part of the event for me. I made a lot of new characters this year, and I was also making videos about it on top of it. I also got a small taste of the new features Art Fight is working on as the site really comes into its own in the form of playing around with the connections feature. Overall, I'm really glad I made that series about prepping for Art Fight this year, and not just because it did numbers. I also learned a lot about my editing style and what I like doing, but also considering how many characters I had to prep, I definitely needed the template that I put out for everyone just so I could keep track of what I still needed to work on without getting overwhelmed. And as I used it, I definitely found a few things that I wish were set up differently, so maybe next year I'll update it. I also want to be transparent that the people who did decide to buy or tip any of the assets I put out this year was a total surprise, but a pleasant one. I really wanted to have the majority of my content for Art Fight available for free because ultimately it's a community event and I don't want it to be too commercial. But that said, some folks still tossed me a couple bucks for my effort. And while it was about 20 bucks tops across several people over a month, that is still a week of groceries for me. It's not luxurious groceries, but it is the basics and it makes a difference. So I guess I want to say thank you to the people who did buy or tip for any of the resources I put out. You know, they were fun to make, and maybe in the future I'll work on some other OC templates or activities that people can do. Speaking of activities, filling out Art Fight connections was super fun. People got really into yapping about how they were filling them out in my server, and it was honestly a delight to watch. I am definitely looking forward to seeing what else Art Fight adds to the site, since in most of my years participating, we rarely got new features. Anyway, my pre-event was great. I think I maybe overcommitted a bit, but now I know to slim things back and cut back my roster next year. And since the initial video series is done, I likely won't have to go as ham next year. My actual art fight event was weird this year. I got hit with the dip really fast, my ratio was obliterated because of said dip, I saw a lot more plagiarism than usual, and this was the first year I received attacks with no message at all? I don't know what was going on this year. Now, to explain my dip in motivation, I am a freelance artist. I draw for my job. That means some days I spend most of my workday drawing, which means I don't want to draw more when I get done work. Or I want to draw for myself, which is most of what happened. I don't regret drawing for myself at all, but I think I'm due to reflect on what makes Art Fight fun for me, independent of everything else, and focus on that next year. But that's something I want to do on my own time and off camera, you know? Speaking of focusing, Jesus Christ, you all massacred me with attacks this year. I genuinely wish I got to revenge more of you. God, it would be so nice. I treasure every single one of the attacks people took the time to make. That said, I'm not calling out specific people. I did see a lot more plagiarism this year. Which, look, I'm not going to touch the rules change drama with a 10-foot pole. That's just a case of Art Fight being inexperienced and having growing pains to me. But when I lay the reference image for a character on top of the attack, and it matches up nearly exactly, it raises some alarms. And it didn't even happen to me that much. I mostly, honestly, am sad for one of my friends who had multiple cases of it on the same character. And they ended up hiding the character because it just got attacked a lot. And I got a few attacks where people didn't write a description at all. Not even privately, which I'm not saying you can't do that, but man, can I not tell if people didn't care about the character and just wanted points, or were anxious and didn't know what to say. I would like to hope it's the latter, as I think it's just genuinely the best course of action to assume good intentions until you're proven otherwise. But it's hard to entirely ignore the icky feeling that my creative efforts making my OC didn't matter to that person, you know? But I'm also really passionate about character design, so I could just be really sensitive to that in particular. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's a me problem. And like I said, maybe they were just anxious. It just gave me weird vibes, that's all. Anyway, look, all that said, I had a weird art fight. I think some of it's on me. I think some of it's growing pains as the site really seems like it exploded with popularity this year. But it wasn't a bad event by any means. I think I just need to be mindful in the future and make sure I don't end up being a crotchety old man shaking my fist at clouds, you know? Speaking of, I've alluded to it several times, but there was just kind of a different energy to the site this year. I think it's been building over the past few years as the event gets more popular. I've seen a lot more people take Art Fight way more seriously than I think is needed. And maybe that's just because I was overexposed to it from making videos about it. I read pretty much every single one of y'all's comments, and I tried to reply to basically anything I could. And let me just say, a lot of y'all were being anxious as hell and mean to yourselves in those comments. Anyway, there's a certain attitude of less experienced participants that I noticed in interacting with people in the comments, and I think it stems from that very lack of experience. Not a lot of old-style, volunteer-led community and forum games are around on the internet anymore. So people are far more used to corporate events. That means folks come into Art Fight with way higher expectations than they should, because corporate stuff just has more money and manpower to throw around. Now, obviously, I don't work at Art Fight. I don't know anybody who works at Art Fight, and I don't know anything internally about how things run. But if I recall correctly from what I've read and seen, the majority of the staff is volunteers. That means it's people who have other things to do with their lives, and it's not fair to expect them to be perfect event hosts. A lot of less experienced participants act like they do expect perfection from those volunteers as far as I've seen. And I think that expectation comes from a projected fear of making mistakes, of not being perfectly guided, because so many things are algorithmically recommended to us. But that's only for big corporate events, which Art Fight isn't that. It's a fundamentally different thing. And it's not these people's faults that they're anxious. We are all being constantly blasted with a fire hose of anxiety-inducing stimuli. But I do think it's an individual's responsibility to learn how to regulate their emotions in a healthy way. So, I know Art Fight is likely going to go through some growing pains. It does every year. And I guess I hope to see more grace from the community when it comes to things. I hope to see more people who didn't like how something was ran to step up and volunteer to help rather than make a big stink about it in comments, you know? Obviously, not everyone can help, too many cooks in the kitchen and all that, but I think it would make the Art Fight community a lot healthier if folks focused on learning to regulate their own emotion and seeing where they can help shape the event. It was a mixed bag for me for Art Fight this year. I'm hoping that next year is better. I want to take time away from the event to reflect on it and make a plan to help myself enjoy the event more in the future. And I do want to stick around participating because I think the spirit of Art Fight is super cool, despite the chaos that happens when you get that many people in one event. So, how was your Art Fight this year? Did I just have a uniquely weird event, or was there something in the air this time? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking around for this retrospective. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts and that it was good background noise while you did something. If you'd like more of that good background noise, you should consider subscribing. That tells the YouTube algorithm that this video is actually worth watching. Otherwise, be cozy, be kind, and make something cool.